I'm Angel, 64. Standing in the opulent ballroom of the Hartford Marriott, I'm surrounded by the who's who of Connecticut. The air is thick with celebration, the sound of clinking glasses and lively chatter filling the room. I adjust the silk evening gown, its deep sapphire blue making me feel like royalty. Just a year ago, I couldn't have imagined being in a place like this, let alone being the center of attention. My eyes skim the room and land on a familiar figure partially hidden behind a column. It's my son, Ethan. His presence stirs a whirlwind of emotions within me. Memories of our last encounter, filled with hurtful words, flood my mind. But there's also a glimmer of hope as I notice the changes in him. He looks older, more subdued, and there's a newfound thoughtfulness in his eyes. As I make my way through the crowd, I can't help but reflect on the journey that has brought me here. It all started with a cruel lunch conversation at an upscale restaurant. Ethan, dressed in an expensive suit, his posture exuding confidence, looked at me across the table and said, "You're worthless, Mom. Dad's new wife, Lily, isn't." The words hit me like a sledgehammer, shattering the fragile sense of self I'd managed to hold on to. I remember sitting there, my fork suspended halfway to my mouth, a piece of grilled chicken growing cold. The other diners around us continued their conversations, oblivious to the storm raging within me. I wanted to defend myself, to remind him of all the sacrifices I'd made for him and his father, but the words caught in my throat. "You have a high school diploma and 20 years of making sandwiches for other people's kids. What does that amount to?" Ethan sneered, ticking off my supposed shortcomings on his fingers. "Lily has a master's degree in business, speaks 3 languages, and is helping Dad expand his practice. She's valuable." I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "Your father and I divorced 15 years ago. Lily has nothing to do with me," I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible over the din of the restaurant. "Everything has to do with you, Mom. Dad's happy now because of Lily. You made him feel trapped." Ethan hissed, his words laced with venom. I sat there, stunned, as he continued to berate me. The reference to my job at the elementary school cafeteria stung deeply. I'd been proud of that work, of knowing which kids needed extra attention, which ones forgot their lunch money, and which ones just needed a kind word. But in Ethan's eyes, it was nothing. After that painful lunch, I drove home in a daze. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed a silver Bentley parked across the street. Its chrome glinted in the sunlight, standing out like a diamond in a sea of ordinary cars. I dried my hands slowly, watching the car through the thin curtains I'd sewn myself. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside, but I could sense that someone was in there. Over the next few days, the Bentley became a constant presence. It would appear every morning around 8:15 and disappear sometime in the afternoon. I tried to ignore it, but a sense of unease began to creep over me. One Monday morning, as I was sipping my coffee by the front window, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize with a Boston area code. "Hello," I answered cautiously. "Angel." "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I finally found you," a male voice, older with a slight tremor, exclaimed. "Who is this?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "This is Henry. We went to high school together, class of '78. I sat behind you in Mr. Thompson's chemistry class," he said. The name hit me like a bolt of lightning. Henry. I hadn't thought about him in decades. He was the sweet, quiet boy with thick glasses and a gentle smile who had helped me with my chemistry homework. "Henry, how did you find me?" I whispered, sinking into my kitchen chair. "It took some doing. I hired a private investigator. It cost me a fortune, but I had to try," he admitted with a small laugh. "A private investigator? Why were you looking for me?" I asked, a chill running down my spine. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Henry said softly, "Angel, I have something important to tell you. Something about Leo." Leo. The name sent a flood of memories rushing back. Leo was my first love, the boy with dark hair and blue eyes who could make me laugh until my sides hurt. We had spent hours sitting by the lake, dreaming of our future together. But life had gotten in the way, and we had lost touch after I moved away with my parents. What about Leo? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Leo has been looking for you for years, decades actually. He's one of the wealthiest men in New England now, but he's never married, never had children. He's spent a fortune trying to find you, Henry said. I felt the room spin around me. It didn't seem possible. Is that him in the Bentley outside my house? I asked, my voice trembling. Yes, Henry confirmed. He was afraid of scaring you, so he asked me to call first to prepare you. He's been waiting 45 years to see you again. I sat there, stunned, as the weight of what Henry was saying sank in. While I had been living my quiet life, raising Ethan, working at the school cafeteria, and struggling through a difficult marriage and divorce, Leo had been searching for me. I took a deep breath and walked outside, my legs feeling like jelly. As I approached the Bentley, my phone rang again and again. By the time I reached the car, it had rung 53 times. The driver's door opened, and Leo stepped out slowly. He looked different, his dark hair now silver white, but those impossibly blue eyes were exactly the same. Hello, Angel, he said softly, his voice deeper now but still carrying the same gentle tone that had once made me feel like the most important person in the world. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. This couldn't be real. Billionaire businessmen like Leo didn't drive themselves to modest neighborhoods to reconnect with their high school sweethearts. You look beautiful, Leo said, taking a tentative step closer. I let out a shaky laugh. Leo, I'm 63 years old. I've changed plenty. He smiled, the same crooked grin that had made my teenage heart skip a beat. Not where it matters. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I couldn't take my eyes off the man standing before me. Henry said you've been looking for me for 27 years, I said. Leo nodded. Ever since I had enough money to hire the kind of investigators who could track down someone who didn't want to be found. You kept your married name after the divorce, moved to a different state, and didn't have social media accounts under your real name. It took my people 8 years just to confirm you were still alive. Why? I asked, the question barely a whisper. Leo was quiet for a long moment, his eyes studying my face, as if memorizing every detail. Because you were the only person who ever made me feel like I could be more than what I was born to be. Because I never stopped loving you. And because I made you a promise 45 years ago that I never got to keep. I remembered that night by the lake, the moonlight casting a soft glow on his face as he took my hands in his and said, I'm going to make something of myself, Angel. I'm going to build something real, something lasting, and when I do, I'm going to find you and I'm going to give you the world. I felt the tears streaming down my face. You kept that promise. Look at what you've built, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Leo shook his head. I built the empire, yes, but I never gave you the world. I never even got the chance to try. He then walked around to the passenger side of the Bentley and opened the door. Get in. There's something I need to show you. I hesitated for a moment, but then I thought about Ethan's words, about the way he'd looked at me like I was nothing. I took a deep breath and got into the car. Inside the car, Leo pulled out a manila folder from his briefcase. This is the financial statement for the Angel Foundation for Educational Excellence. I established it 12 years ago. It provides scholarships for underprivileged children, funds school lunch programs, and supports educational initiatives in underserved communities. It's currently worth $47 million and growing. I stared at him, my mind reeling. Why is it called the Angel Foundation? Leo smiled. Because you inspired it. Do you remember what you used to say in high school about how every child deserved to feel special, to feel valued, and to have someone believe in their potential? I remembered, and when I had the money to act on it, I created this foundation based on your values, your vision. He looked at me intently. Angel, I need someone to run it. Someone who understands children, who has experience working in schools, and who shares the foundation's mission. I want you to be the executive director. I was speechless. Leo, I'm not qualified. I don't have a business degree or nonprofit experience. You have something better. You have heart, integrity, and a deep understanding of what it's like to feel undervalued. That's something no MBA program can teach, Leo said, reaching over and taking my hands in his. I sat there, my mind racing. This was an opportunity of a lifetime, but it also meant stepping out of my comfort zone. After some thought, I decided to accept Leo's offer. I moved into the beautiful farmhouse in Connecticut that came with the position, and my life changed overnight. The foundation work was challenging but incredibly rewarding. I found myself working long hours, not because I had to, but because I couldn't bear to stop. I met amazing children like Emily, a young girl from a poor neighborhood who received a scholarship from the foundation and was now thriving in college. Her story, and the stories of so many others, gave me a new sense of purpose. But just when I was starting to feel like I was finally where I belonged, Ethan showed up in my office. He looked different, more subdued, but there was still a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. "Mom, I owe you an apology. I was wrong about everything. I was so focused on measuring success by conventional standards that I couldn't see the extraordinary person you've always been," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. I looked at him, my heart filled with a mix of hope and caution. "What changed?" Ethan glanced around the elegant office, taking in the photos of the children we'd helped and the evidence of the foundation's impact. "Watching what you've built, reading about the kids you've helped, I realized that in 1 year you've accomplished more meaningful change than I have in my entire career. When I called you worthless, I was describing myself." He took a deep breath and continued, "I've made some changes in my life. I left my job at the consulting firm and am now working for a nonprofit, helping small businesses in underserved communities access capital. It doesn't pay as well, but it feels important. I also ended things with Lily and have been seeing a therapist to understand why I was so cruel to you." I listened to him, my eyes filled with tears. It was hard to believe that this was the same boy who had once called me worthless. "I appreciate your apology, Ethan, but words are easy. The real question is whether you can sustain this new understanding when life gets complicated again," I said, my voice steady. Ethan nodded. "I know I have to earn your trust back. Mom, if you'll let me, I'd like to try. I'd like to be the son you deserved all along." Just then, Leo walked into the office. He looked at Ethan and me, his eyes filled with understanding. "Ethan, your mother speaks highly of you. I hope you understand how precious second chances are." Ethan shook Leo's hand. "I do, more than you know." As the evening wound down at the gala, I stood there, surrounded by the people I loved and the evidence of the impact we'd made. Leo slipped his arm around my waist and asked, "What now?" I looked around the ballroom, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. A year ago, I'd been a woman convinced of her own worthlessness, resigned to a life of disappointment. But now, I was surrounded by hope and possibility. "Now we go home, and tomorrow we change more lives," I said, feeling the warmth of the silver locket Ethan had given me earlier against my skin. The locket, with its 2 pictures of us, one of me holding him as a newborn and another of us at his high school graduation, was a symbol of the love and the second chance we were both being given. As we walked towards the exit, I caught my reflection in the ballroom's mirrored walls. The woman looking back at me was elegant, confident, and radiant with purpose and joy. She looked like someone who mattered, like someone who had always mattered, but had simply needed the right moment to remember. I smiled at my reflection and kept walking, ready for whatever came next. After 64 years, my life had finally begun.